Pirates Legend of the Black Buccaneer is not a beloved game.
I couldn't believe how bad this game was. This game is not worth free. This is one of the worst games I've ever played in my life.
To be honest, I understand why it's gotten such negative reception, and I cannot disagree with the criticisms. I can say it's a game I enjoy in spite of its flaws, enough to have played through it twice. The back of the box would have you believe this game is a multi-quest line pirate's call to adventure with skill-based character progression across 18 fantastic Caribbean locations, such as the beach, the flooded jungle, jungle ruins, and who could forget Waterfall Right. So, the 18 locations are on a single island. We'll get to the quest and skill upgrades later, but please don't hold your breath for anything intricate. Reviews are quick to point out that Black Buccaneer borrows from the likes of Tomb Raider and Prince of Persia without living up to their pedigree. I'm not here to paint this as a hidden gem or an underrated classic, but I think if you're willing to learn about the game's quirks, you'll find an inexpensive and fun way to spend a weekend. Or an afternoon if you're someone who can game for 6 hours straight. Black Buccaneer doesn't have a story so much as it has an excuse for players to explore the island. There are 2 interesting side characters with criminally underused backstories and 2 cardboard cutouts. This is the villain Laborne, French for one-eyed. She is a badass escaped slave who sacrificed an eye to the Black Buccaneer in exchange for supernatural powers, which she used to attack slave ships and steal wealth from colonizing nations. She commands an army of ex-slaves so fierce that survivors speak of them as demons. Laborne is awesome, and I wish she was the hero instead of the villain. The Black Buccaneer is an equally badass voodoo spirit from the land of the dead who's able to meddle with the mortal realm through an amulet. He has the power of possession and to summon the dead out of the ground to fight for him. He made a deal with Laborne to grant her powers for only 7 years, but she betrayed him and trapped him in the amulet. In order to be set free, the Buccaneer must defeat Laborne. This polygonal male fantasy is Vanilla, and she's as basic as her name. She's on the island looking for her lost father, and is only in this game so boys can glitch the camera to get a close-up of her doubloons. Which leaves this piece of toast, Francis Edgelord Blade. He's a pirate and he wants treasure, arr! Laborne, somehow, makes men in the Caribbean dream of the island and its treasure. They hastily form crews and race to get there first, only to have Laborne sink their ships and drown them with supernatural storms. Francis miraculously survives and finds the amulet. Having no other means to get revenge on Laborne, the Buccaneer agrees to help Francis on his quest for gold. One part of the intro that confuses me is how the narrator says,
"Of the rocky shores of an uncharted island."
So this means it's not on any maps and no one knows how to get there. And yet, the island has a fort, docks, even an abandoned mine. All of this strongly implies that some Western power had to have sailed to and from this island multiple times. It would have to be charted on some maps, right? So far I've been telling you the backstory I found in the game's pause menus. Narratively, not a whole heck of a lot happens beyond this point, but nevertheless, this is your spoiler warning. And, like a Saturday morning cartoon, you can probably guess where this is going. Are Saturday morning cartoons even a thing anymore? Finding the amulet happens in the game's opening minutes. Helping Vanilla find her father takes place before the halfway point. From there, the story amounts to nothing more than exploring the island for ship parts and upgrades. If exploring the island holds your attention long enough, you eventually meet up with Laborne. After defeating her, the narrator tells us the Black Buccaneer regains control of his powers and has mercy on Laborne. So presumably, she survives this sword to the chest. Francis gets the gold, gets the girl, and they live happily ever after. They end with the reveal that Francis still has the amulet, but if the Buccaneer is no longer trapped, then it's nothing more than a trinket. Through the whole game, there is never any spoken dialogue between the characters, not even through text. You would think having a voodoo spirit with you at all times would at least lead to a Cortana-style situation. Or maybe Vanilla would have something to say about you suddenly becoming a jacked voodoo spirit, but all the characters are completely silent. Kind of like the stores were when this game released. Of the Black Buccaneer's numerous shortfalls, the story is easily the one that pains me the most. Laborne and the Buccaneer have eccentric backstories which could have led to engaging interactions, but the two of them aren't even in the same room with each other until the game's climax. Laborne never leaves the volcano or acknowledges the fact you're gallivanting around her island. Vanilla could be cut from the game entirely and no one would notice. There is literally nothing for her to do after the two of you find her father's corpse. Even after defeating LeBorn, you can backtrack to find her just standing there. And her marriage to Francis in the end is just one more played-out trope for the pile. I mean, why did she even marry him anyway? Can anyone tell me why she would want to marry a guy she just met? Anyone? Bueller? Francis has no growth or even motivation aside from wanting to find treasure, whereas it's the Buccaneer who has lost his power and is slowly regaining it over the course of the game. This could have been a redemption story for him, but alas, we get to pilot dollar store Jack Sparrow because he's white. If you ask me, LeBorn is the hero of this story. She sacrificed her own eye to a voodoo spirit in exchange for the power to free slaves and attack the people who are raping the New World. I recognize there's a snowball's chance in the Caribbean of this ever happening, but I hope a prequel of this game is made where we get to play as LeBorn. Platforming is the second thing you'll have to excuse if you want to enjoy this game. It's not a typical platformer where your hero jumps a preset distance that you can learn and master as the game progresses. Instead, Francis is pulled as if by a magnet to the next platform, but only if you aim him dead on and press jump at the exact edge of the platform. If you go into this game not knowing that, you're going to jump to your death. A lot. And you'll think most areas are out of your reach. The island has switches to raise platforms, push blocks for reaching higher ledges, and obstacles you can remove only after unlocking its matching ability. When your character jumps to their death on purpose, it's only natural to assume you've missed something and need to backtrack, but I promise, it's not you, it's the game. Here's an example from the first dungeon. Francis has just acquired the amulet. You can see the exit and these very obvious flagpoles leading to it. This looks like the way you should go, because it is. But if you don't line up just right and jump at the last possible microsecond, Francis will short hop to his death. He won't make a grandiose Lara Croft leap and fall short of the flagpole. He will hop like a kid into a rain puddle and fall 2 stories to his death. It's hilarious the first time, but then it keeps happening again, and again, and again. Having beaten this twice, my advice is just watch his feet. Scan the room, find the path you want to take, and press jump when his feet are right on the edge. It won't take long to master, and you'll come to learn the platforming is actually pretty trivial. Francis will still happily jump to his death from time to time, but thankfully death is a very minor setback to those in league with the Black Buccaneer. Okay, I swear that last platform is bugged and you clip through it more times than not. Actually, now that I come to think of it, the magnetized platforming reminds me of a poor man's Uncharted. When you're not, alley Reismaning your way through the jungle, you'll most frequently have to fight. Combat isn't flawed like the platforming, it's just very of its era. Square light attacks and triangle heavy attacks. Different combinations of these 2 buttons pull off moves like and whatever the fuck the animator thought this was. New combos are learned from scrolls found in treasure chests. On the island, there are 3 enemy factions to fight. I'm not sure which one is aligned with LeBorn since they infight with each other. The owner's manual is little more than an epilepsy warning and a 90-day limited warranty, so it's no help. Within each faction are light enemies who melee attack aggressively and have no respect for the Kung Fu circle, little shit. Heavies who hang back and shoot but swap to melee when you get close enough. And snipers that snipe. If you're wondering how apes can snipe, the answer is exploding poo. If you try matching a light combo to a light enemy or heavy to heavy, the baddie interrupts the combo and stuns the player. Francis can dodge roll with circle and whip out a pistol with R1. It locks onto enemies from a healthy distance, which is great for dealing with snipers. And like a truck stop blind date, it can also shoot through walls. Dead enemies drop offerings, which is the currency used to respawn, save the game, and pay for upgrades. The upgrades on offer are rather standard: increase your health, your damage output, and make your zombie summoning and possessions more efficient. That's right, when I said the Black Buccaneer could summon the dead, that wasn't just backstory fluff. These glowy spots on the ground are little portals through which a zombie can be spawned. Possessing an enemy just means they fight for you, so you can have one of each at the same time. Problem is, until they're fully upgraded, their presence drains your health. Something I might have learned the hard way. It seems counterintuitive to give the player not one, but two special abilities which are meant to aid in combat, i.e., reduce how much damage you take when fighting enemies, but using them hurts the player and can even kill them. When fighting as Francis, successful attacks fill the low amida. Low amida? Why do I turn into like a fucking Boston cop when I say that? When it's full, clicking the thumbsticks changes the player into the Buccaneer. Aside from being more powerful, landing attacks as the Buccaneer regains health. The only other ways to heal are to save in an altar or die and respawn, both of which cost offerings. Late in the game, you unlock the power to sacrifice health for more lower energy, so if you play it right, you could go full-time Hulk and not switch back to puny Francis. As for boss fights, I don't want to spoil the boss fights. If I can convince you to play this game, then I want those to remain a surprise. I'll preface again, don't hold your breath. But aside from an obvious showdown with Laborn, I bet you can't guess what the other two bosses are. What is this? How'd this get in here? No, turn that. I said turn that off. Get that out of here. Hey kids, are you still pushing blocks around on your TI calculator? Throw that expensive piece of shit away and upgrade to Black Buccaneer. It lets you push blocks in 3D. Wow! But that's not all. After you push a block, you can stand on it. Whoa, that's pretty high up. Better not tell your parents. Look, I realize I'm supposed to be convincing you to play this game, and I keep tearing it down. But I don't want you ambushing me in the middle of the night because I failed to set your expectations. If it wasn't clear from the skit, puzzles in the Black Buccaneer are of the push block variety. Your main quest in this game is to collect ship parts, and you'll find them at the end of these puzzles. In true action-adventure fashion, you'll come across puzzles you can't solve until you unlock a new ability. 3 of these abilities are for pushing different types of blocks. The other 2, burning bushes and breaking statues, may as well be keycards. Bombs are the only unlock that serve a dual purpose of opening new paths and aiding in combat. Way to go, bombs! What's most disappointing to me about all of this is the fact you have to find these underwhelming unlocks in this awesome hell-looking dimension. It looks to be ripped straight from Doom, and honestly, this is my favorite part of the game. These areas serve as platforming and combat challenges that reward you with a new ability at the end. It's just a shame that all you get for your efforts is to push heavier blocks or torch a bit of shrubbery. Fighting these challenges is done via Guinan portals. Checking Wikipedia, Guinan looks to be a very critical aspect of voodoo religion. It's where spirits reside for 1 year and a day before being absorbed into the Gita family. I am terribly sorry if I'm pronouncing all of this wrong. But based on the Buccaneer's backstory, I presume this is where he's from, and I am chomping at the bit to know more, both about this place and what the Buccaneer's role is supposed to be. Some of the portals lead to what should be a fast travel hub. First, it's cumbersome to navigate. It's also perfectly symmetric, which makes it easy to forget where you came in. And in order to see where each exit leads, you have to walk right up to the portal. Trust me, it's much faster to bring up the map and plot your own course around the island. Now, even though the unlocks in this game are a letdown, the execution from the environment artist makes it all worth it. And the rest of the island is pretty to look at too. I mean, it's no God of War, but it's no Armyman Green Rogue either. Fucking hell. I like doing a little montage of footage when showing off a game's environments, so here you go. Hold up, is that a ship? Can we roll back the tape? Your main quest in this game is to collect ship parts. Why in the holy hell are we traipsing around the island trying to fix this wreck when we have a succulent seaworthy specimen right here? It floats, it's got sails, it's protected by this natural harbor or lagoon. Cut me some slack, I haven't had a geography lesson in 20 years. There's even a dinghy Francis and Vanilla can use to row out to it. What a shitload of fuck 0 out of 10. Look, there's a reason I'm not in sales. I know I'm supposed to be selling you on this mediocre game because, hey, I enjoyed it. I think it has some redeeming qualities, but I can't sit here and lie to you. I'm not my father. It ultimately depends on you and your personal tastes for whether or not you could play it. If you absolutely have to have an engaging story with provocative characters, then it's a hard pass. Or an easy pass, depending on how you look at it. If you require something with a well-executed difficulty curve that pushes you to hone your skills, then it's not for you. I mean, don't get me wrong, I much prefer to have a riveting story with complex characters, and a sandbox so well-balanced it gets picked apart by the likes of Reykjavik and writing on games. But sometimes I can get by with exploring a nice-to-look-at tropical island, while not having to devote all my brain power to memorizing enemy patterns. Where the simple act of taking the quest log is enough to turn my thoughts away from real-world stress. Black Buccaneer may be as deep as a rain puddle, but you can still have fun splashing around in those. If you've played this game before, what did you think of it? If you haven't played it, did I convince you to give it a shot? You might be a collector who already has Black Buccaneer, and I say you have nothing to lose but an afternoon. For those of you who don't, its complete in-box price has mostly stayed below $5 for the past 8 years. I'm Sweaty Rob. Thanks for watching.
Why is it called Pirates? There's only one.